Twilight looked before her. There were two entities that presented themselves to Twilight, while Outlander was right next to her. She became immediately tense after last night's fiasco. She didn't know how to describe or feel. The entity on the left was a humanoid figure, which she could see through the giant mask or helmet or whatever it was wearing. It appeared to be a human. The human had a cloak over it that was ripped and torn and ragged. It also had on some kind of weird wool gloves and a piece of charcoal in its hand that had multiple writings on it. Twilight immediately put together that this must be how he communicated. And the entity on the right was a humanoid figure, however not human, but appeared to be a wolf. This surprised Twilight somewhat, as she remembered very distinctly that the animals that they had encountered earlier were, well, not humanoid. This truly grasped her in surprise. But she decided to push on forward, remain level-headed, and ignore it. She would come back to it later with more research and documentating. She looked over to her right at the Outlander, right next to her. She didn't know what to think. Everything was different. Everything was just so... It was hard to put together. Now that she was truly grasping the situation, she was in another world, far beyond her own comprehension. There were possibly new creatures here and whole new methods of technology and medical science and, well, everything. Probably even new diseases that she'd have to worry about. Now that she was truly grasping the situation, everything that she had been through finally slammed into her. The Outlander almost dying, the Outlander saving her, the experience of just overwhelming fear and shock. She decided not to think too much on it. Instead, taking one small, deep breath and just deciding to push forward. Deciding that she would do everything in her power to get home. And if she could help it, she'd get the Outlander out too. She looked to her left, staring at him, and said, "Well, I need to talk about you, Outlander, about something later. So, yeah, we'll talk and when we're not in earshot of others, in private." He simply looked down and nodded. The wolf looked at the Outlander, not with any aggression or hostility, but more of a smug cockiness. Approached and had a grin that only a predator could give. This kind of put Twilight on edge. She wasn't readying her horn to fire off the spell, but she was cautious. And then the wolf let out one hearty laugh and said, "Ah, meat. It's good to see ya. Thought you died out in the woods or something," he said, yellow spit flying out of his mouth as he yapped. He grabbed the Outlander by his arm, pulled him in, and gave him one strong, good hug. He looked at him and said, "Well, as long as you're doing fine, that's all that matters, ain't it?" He laughed heartily. "I knew you weren't useless after all, Meat." The Outlander just shook his head and said, "Whatever. Look, just get out, all right? I'll come talk to you, swing by your den later. For now, I have a lot of stuff to get down to." The wolf said, "Whatever, Meat. Just don't come crawling and bitching to me when you get hurt out here," he said, slinging his AK over his shoulder and opening the door and striding out. The Outlander then looked over to the trader, walked over, and began seemingly bargaining, getting most of everything for free while not giving the trader anything. Twilight was confused, but decided she'd press after. After he had done his business, the trader had walked away. Twilight came over and said, "What was that about?" The Outlander looked down and said, "Well, Twilight, after every night I survive, I get a increased reputation. Reputation's everything around here, pretty much. It's like currency. The stronger your reputation, the more you got. I don't really get it, and I'm not going to pretend I get it, but hey, it works. And with you around, you have your own reputation. After surviving that night, you could have bought a few things from the merchant, but he didn't know. I'm glad I let you know, because next time you can probably get a few things for me. Now look, Twilight. About your situation. Look, I don't know where you're from or how you got here, but we'll talk about it in a bit. What I do need to tell you is that I can tell when you killed something out there. Twilight immediately stiffened at that, the thoughts pouring back in. Look, these things or beings or entities or whatever the hell you want to call them, they're not, well, they're something that isn't necessarily good. I know you don't understand, and I know I'm not going to attempt to make you understand. But what I am going to tell you is that these things out here, there's a lot of bad of them. There's savages out in the woods that roam in packs, and then there's chompers that'll tear your arms from your body and strip your flesh like it's, well, dry wallpaper. There's mushroom men that'll run out of the ground, and then there's dogs. There's all kinds of crazy shit out there. And I know you didn't ask for this or anything. Many of those things out there have been afflicted with the plague. It's made them extremely dangerous, and killing them is pretty much a mercy. So, yeah. And I can tell from your face this is a lot to take in, but I'll teach you how to survive. I'll help you. Look, about an hour every day, I'll take time, show you the ropes, tell you what's out, I'll teach you how to shoot a gun with your magic or whatever. At least that's what I'm assuming it is. I'll make you a few things, like a few things you can fight with. Like, well, I see you have a few saddlebags there. Here. The Outlander turned around and grabbed something from underneath a table. He pulled out a small drawer and got what appeared to be a regular old box. But then he started pulling a few things out. Now look, I'm gonna need your help, alright? And this is probably the best thing you could do. He began loading her saddlebags with additional things. She looked and saw bandages, some food, a few other things here and there. She even saw a knife. She looked up and said, "But I don't want to do..." Before she could finish, he said, "I know you don't want to, but you're gonna have to, Twy. There's only so much I can do. I'm not used to bringing another person out there in the woods to protect. There's bear traps that are lying around everywhere. Even if I break one, there's just bound another one's gonna somehow spawn up out of nowhere. Mushrooms are everywhere. You step on them, you'll get a poison cloud right in your face. Savages could ambush. Chompers could run out of nowhere. Crazy elks. There's all kinds of crazy shit. Look." He came up, grabbing something from behind what appeared to be an old dresser. Pulling it out, it was a shovel. However, it seemed sturdier, and the shovel's blade itself seemed sharper. He handed it over to her. "Take this shovel. I know that's not much, but I added some stuff so it's more durable, and it's also a bit more sharper because I sharpened it. Now, Twilight." He kneeled down and said these words that she would remember for the remainder of her time here. "Twilight, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to be extremely honest when I say these words. If you are not able to put aside your comfortability, if you aren't able to get out of your shell in order to defend yourself, to kill another being, then that'll compromise your survival. That'll compromise my survival. I could die, and you could die. The world you're from, I'm just going to guess that there's other beings like you. You won't be able to see them. You won't see your friends or family. So, the hand on the side of her shoulder gripped a little tighter when he said this. However, no matter what, I consider you a friend. I don't know why I consider you a friend already, but I do. Now, I'll fight for you. I'll fight till my last breath. This place has taken its toll on me. That's why I'm just so ready to leave. But I can't guarantee that I'm going to be able to fight off everything. Sure, I can fight off a few savages here and there. I can fight off a few mushroom men, hell, even a chomper or two. But there's only so much I can do against centipedes, human spiders, and floor gore, and lots of it. Hell, I don't even know if I can take out a horde of banshees or a few swampers. He smiled and said, "Now, He went over, grabbing an axe that was laying on a workbench and a large cylinder thing that he called a hunting rifle. Let's get out there. It had been hours since twilight, and the Outlander had left their humble abode. The Outlander had told her how he was taken in by a doctor, who promptly pretty much beat everything out of him, or tried to. Took the key that was the only way out, and now he was searching. With the key, he could get out. He could escape. So now, it was just a hunt. A hunt to find where it would be. A hunt that may or may not lead to one's death. But he was willing to. Not wanting to be here. Not wanting to be stuck, trapped. He had told Twilight about how many of the villagers had begun to become hopeless. Some even willing to do other means that he didn't indulge her further about. As they made their way close, they saw something out in the distance. It was faint, but could be heard. It was laughter